Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of One Arm Wednesday. We are on the 20th episode. And to kick off this milestone of episodes that start with the number two, let's talk about how we can do two or more reps of the one arm pull up or any pull up variation for that matter. Let's break it down. Thank you for tuning in. If you do enjoy this content, remember to give me a thumbs up and to subscribe to the channel. We are marching towards the 500 subscriber mark, and I would really appreciate the additional support. Now, let's get into the video. So, we've all been at that point where we finally hit that one rep max, whether it's getting our first pull up, one arm pull up, maybe even assisted one arm pull up. And then we figure out the next step of getting more reps is going to be just as hard as getting the rep for the first time. So, how did I go about approaching this? Well, I think like most people, I was first starting off just doing the one rep at the start of the workout and then seeing if I could get anywhere close to a second rep right afterwards, and was kind of stalling in place. I would then follow that up with additional sets of maybe an assisted variation or a reduced amount of weights and just try to add up some capacity so that hopefully the next attempt I went of trying to get two reps would go better than that. But honestly, this really stalled for me until I started adding in a different approach to my workout. So historically, I've usually followed a bodybuilding or powerlifting mentality, which is having long rest periods in between your one rep attempts. So for me, it was basically I would do one rep and then take about 3 minutes rest and then try that one rep again. And this was good for, I guess, getting confident and being able to do the repetition. But I think it was a bit overkill when trying to think about how I wanted to add in additional reps. So I was playing around with different methodologies and trying to figure out how I could get the conditioning to be able to do more reps. It's not just about necessarily the strength, but it's also the endurance of being able to stay up on a bar and consistently go about doing it. So by having these longer rest periods, yes, you're able to go and do a solid rep, but you're not necessarily going to have the conditioning to continue doing reps. This is good once you kind of have that conditioning base, so then you're able to kind of give your best efforts, take a breather, and then go about pushing again. But when it actually comes to building that base, I wanted to take a different approach. So this is where I started to incorporate every minute on the minute workouts into my training, and this is where I got the most bang for my buck. So how I structure this for the one arm pull up is I picked a certain amount of time, whether it was 7 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on kind of how my workout was structured. I didn't want to go super long at the start, so I was definitely trying to keep it on the shorter end. And then as time went on, I would extend my every minute on the minute out. But I wanted to be able to go in and I would start with my hardest progression. So this was my one rep of the one arm pull up. So I would go the first minute, do the one arm pull up, come down, and I roughly have about 30-ish seconds after alternating arms before I go up and attempt the next rep. At this point, if I'm feeling good, I would go and attempt another single one arm pull up rep. But if not, what I would do then is toss a band on and do an assisted one arm pull up for that next minute. And then I would do those assisted one arm pull ups then for the remainder of the workout. So the goal here was not necessarily trying to get multiple reps, but it was trying to make every minute have a singular one arm pull up. Because yes, you're coming off the bar for maybe about 30 to 40 seconds, but you're still building up a much more condition based as opposed to taking long periods of rest in between my sets. So what started off as doing one arm pull up and maybe six assisted one arm pull ups in that 7 minutes eventually turned to two one arm pull ups and then five assisted and then three one arm pull ups, etc. And by starting to do this slowly over time and build out that conditioning, when I was then going in and having strict sets of doing, 3 minutes rest, I was then eventually able to do two reps in a row of the one arm pull up because I had built a conditioning base. So this is a technique that I definitely recommend because for me nowadays, I'm doing sets of one or two one arm pull ups. And I've then been able to get up to six one arm pull ups in a row by having the conditioning base as part of that. So when you start matching in that strength and power alongside of the conditioning, that's where you start to get the magic. What's great is that this is applicable to many different movements. So I did this for the one arm pull up, and you could apply this to regular pull ups. But I also did this for the handstand push up. I did sets of one handstand push up, and when I couldn't anymore, I got up on a box and did pike press. So there's a lot of different ways you can kind of implement this in your training by doing your hardest variation as long as possible, and then kind of keep the conditioning going by regressing down and keep pushing forward that way. And then you try to gamify it where every week you try to improve the numbers and then go from there. And then eventually, once you sit down and do a well rested set, you'll be pretty amazed at how quickly you're able to start chaining reps together. So, to quickly summarize this, if you want to get those 2 reps plus in a row from just being able to do 1 rep, add in every minute on the minute training where you try to progressively get better and having a regression when you're not able to do your hardest progression anymore. And then make sure also to make sure that you have those well rested sets every now and then to test to see how the conditioning is doing. You want to be able to balance your conditioning and your strength work. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to like the video and to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment down below. Do you think this could be useful in your training, or maybe you have a different approach that you think could help people out? Let me know down below. Have a good one, everyone. Let's go get that 1 arm pull up.